This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Knick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
What is going on, Knick family? It's your boy, UnclefOOlio, and I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back with another episode of the Kontroversy, sponsored by Nothing But Knicks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified anytime we go live, anytime we have pregame coverage, postgame coverage, next day shoot-arounds, or any type of breakdown video where we want to talk about the Knicks, the team that we all love, that we all do this for, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with me today. Obviously, the Knicks are off today. Off for both days this weekend, so we got a lot of time to practice, to work on some of the issues that we've been having lately. Today, I just want to go over some things. I feel like the Knick fan base is overreacting a little bit based on Knick Twitter and things of that nature. So I want to talk about that a little bit, break down some offensive and defensive numbers compared to last season. Talk about that, and also I have some questions that I'm going to cover, and we're going to talk about in detail to talk about what's going on with this team, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined today by Nate the Great, No Take Nate, or whatever you want to call him. I know a lot of people don't like what Nate has to say, and you don't like what I have to say for that matter, either. So I was like, what the heck? Let's get Nate in here, and me and him are actually going to have a discussion/debate about the New York Knicks. So without further ado, let me welcome in my guy Nate the Great. What is going on with you, my man?
How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How are you?
Good, man. My Lions finished in the tie in the loss, so I'm pretty happy.
I got you. Lions finally won something, okay? It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, listen, we're here to talk about the New York Knicks. Thank you for coming on with me. Always a pleasure to talk Knicks with you. Yeah, always a pleasure to talk Knicks with you. We're going to get into some of these things. I feel like the team has kind of been like on an up and down kind of trajectory. After one win or a couple wins, the fan base is excited. We're going to win a championship. And then after a couple losses or a loss, it's, fire everybody and trade everybody. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. As some people out there watching know, I was at the Charlotte versus Knicks game down here in Charlotte. I live in Charlotte. And I was at the game at the Spectrum Center in a suite. And I was there with my guy Freezy and Divine. Freezy from Blue Orange Chairs channel. Shout out to him. And shout out to Divine from the Knicks Road Talk channel. So before we even get started, I just want to give a chance to shout out my guys over at Blue Orange Chairs, Knicks Road Talk. Had a phenomenal time with those guys at the game. It was fun. Also, Staff of Dawn, we had a really, really good time. Talking, being there, rooting on the team. The place was, packed, absolutely packed with Knicks fans, ladies and gentlemen. It was like, I want to say half and half. There was a lot of orange and blue in the stands. So that was really, really fun to be there with those guys. Also, I want to give a shout out to The Streets is Buzzing. My man CT got his podcast up and running. Always a pleasure, CT. Love talking basketball with you, my man. I got to come join your show at some point. We're going to make that happen and do that collaboration. So I really, really just want to give you a shout out. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure if you're watching, make sure you go and subscribe to all these podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. These guys know what they're talking about. Great Knick content. Anytime NBK is not online, make sure you check these guys out. Always a pleasure talking basketball with these guys and beyond. So Nate, without further ado, I think we're gonna get right into it. I'm gonna, skip the pleasantries and all this other stuff. I got that out.
Dive in, man. Let's dive in.
Yeah, just got it out the way because listen, I am a little bit concerned about this team. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm not gonna go overly crazy like some of these Knicks fans are doing. So before we even, get into the overreaction question, I just want to put some stats on the screen. So these are the New York Knicks offensive numbers right here, okay? So this is our offensive numbers from this season compared to the entirety of last season, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, points per game. The Knicks finished the season 26 in points per game, 107 points per game. Right now, the Knicks are 9th, right? So that's a huge jump as far as rankings are concerned. Even though it's a 2.5 point difference, it's a huge jump as far as rankings are concerned. So that's an upgrade, I would say, the offense. Anytime you bring in Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, your offense is going to take a jump a little bit. Field goal attempts per game. The Knicks were 26 last season. Again, near the bottom of the league in the amount of shot attempts that they took, and now they're 17th, or somewhere around the middle, from 86.5 to 89. Field goal percentage. The Knicks were 21st in the NBA in field goal percentage at 45.6 last season. This season they're at 17. Even though it's a lower percentage, 44.7. It's still a jump in the rankings, if you will. 3-point attempts, obviously, this was huge for the New York Knickerbockers. This is something that they said they wanted to address coming into the season. They got to get up more 3-point shots. Last season, again, near the bottom of the league as far as 3-point attempts per game at 30. This season, early in the season, we're ranked 10th in the NBA, 37.3. All right, so that's almost a 23% jump, if you will, in the amount of 3-pointers that we're taking per game. 3-point percentage, the Knicks were very good at 3-point percentage last season. I know that we didn't take that many, but the ones that we did take, we were near the top of the league, third, 39.2% as far as 3-point percentage is concerned. This season, we are fourth, and we're shooting a little bit of a lower percentage, 37.1. But with the amount of 3-pointers that we're putting up there, the numbers, obviously show some sort of improvement in that category. Free throw attempts per game, 23rd in the NBA. This season, we're 6th. Free throw percentage. Last season, we were 14th in the NBA in free throw percentage. This season, we took a little bit of a step back. We've been missing some free throws, mostly at the end of games in the clutch situations. Randle has missed some free throws, and we haven't been able to really keep our free throw percentage up there. So we definitely got to improve in that category. And pace. Pace was one of the things that I definitely wanted the Knicks to improve on this season, because I felt like, we cannot continue to not have that many possessions. I think we have a lot more scorers now. So the more opportunities for these guys to have the ball in their hands to get shots up, I think will be a better thing. Now, in preseason, the Knicks were near the top of the NBA as far as pace is concerned, but now we're right back down to 25th in the NBA at 98.01 in pace, ladies and gentlemen. I think that pace stat is a very, very important one. We definitely have to improve in the pace category. Last season, we were dead last. The season before that, we were second to last. So, Nate, just looking at those numbers right there, tell me how you feel about the Knicks' offensive numbers so far, 13 games into the season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers don't lie. The offense is definitely at a better pace than it was last year, where rankings are more in the top 15 of the NBA, which is impressive. I think a lot of Knicks fans would be like, really? Our offense is that good in some aspects? Because when you watch them play, sometimes it doesn't look that way. It looks like a lot of hero ball, not a lot of ball movement at times. Numbers are impressive. This is the first time I'm kind of looking at these numbers in depth. And the Knicks have improved offensively. I mean, we expected them to, because the two of their prize free agent players were offensive players.
I got you. And listen, I think the offense has definitely improved, right? I don't think, I think people are so accustomed, or were very accustomed to what we've seen in the preseason. The ball kind of moving around, the Knicks getting a lot more shots up, the Knicks getting in transition a little bit more. I think that part of it has tailed down a little bit, as far as the regular season is concerned, these 13 games. However, I do think the ball is moving. People have this misconception that the ball is not moving, and it's constantly Julius Randle, isolation. That's not been the case. I think Julius Randle's been getting a lot of flack from the fan base because other guys are not making their shots. There have been so many open opportunities. I mean, I'm watching the game at Charlotte. Evan Fournier had wide open shot after wide open shot. RJ Barrett has some wide open looks, some gimmies at the basket that he's just missed, flat out missed. Kemba Walker, even though he played much better, he scored a lot more in his previous game against Charlotte, he's had a lot of open opportunities, right? So I think that if the Knicks were able to knock down a little bit more of their shots, we could be scoring a lot more points, but, we're just not knocking down our shots. And I think Julius Randle has been getting unfair blame, in my opinion, for other guys not knocking down their opportunities. And anytime you have a situation where you are trying to run a play early in the shot clock and you can't get that shot off, or you pass up a wide open opportunity, when the clock is going down, you have to give it to your best player to go out and get a bucket for you. And I'm not saying Julius Randle has been the best in that aspect, but he's our best player and he's our best isolation player. And anytime the clock is running down, you have to put the ball in his hands. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. You definitely want the ball in your best. I guess for me, when I say the ball kind of sticks sometimes, I feel like it's when the game's close and it's kind of crunch time. They kind of panic a little bit and they don't run their offense necessarily like they have been in the other quarters. And I think that it kind of sticks to one player. And it's not always Julius. I've seen it with Evan. I've seen it with Kemba. I've seen it with IQ. I mean, you've got good individual ball players, and that's what happens when you have good individual ball players one-on-one. They're gonna take their shots.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You look around the NBA, you know, the best players are going to get their shots up, no question about that. And people are already criticizing Julius Randle. Listen, I understand he's not playing all NBA basketball right now. I totally understand that. But at the same time, he's still leading us in almost every other offensive category. Points, rebounds, assists, he's leading us in all of that. You know, if it's not going to be him, who's going to be that other person to step up? RJ Barrett hasn't stepped up to become that player. Now, we've seen that potential in RJ Barrett in the game against the Pelicans, right? We put up 35 points per game, right? And he had the ball in his hands. He was the focal point of the offense. We've seen him do that in that one game, but where is the consistency, right? So there's no one else on the team that's going to be able to do that. Now, you can argue Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose is coming off the bench, right? Derrick Rose is coming off the bench, and he's out there with those second-tier guys. So, listen, I think that this offense will eventually work itself out. I'm not going to go crazy over the offense not being able to put up points because they're getting wide open shots, ladies and gentlemen. Wide open shots. It's not like, there's no continuity at all. I think there is some continuity, and we're going to talk about that as the show goes on. But I'm not really too concerned about the offense. I think there's a drastic improvement from last season over into this season. I think there's a huge improvement, no question about that. However, there is some things that we need to work on, and I think we need to address moving forward. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Anything else you want to add about offense, Nate? Anything else you want to mention about that?
I mean, honestly, for me, and I've been saying this in the past shows with Sim, and I kind of feel like it doesn't get enough credit. Randle needs to play more inside. He's a big dude. I mean, when you watch him play at Kentucky, the dude could put his head down and get to the basket. Like, I need to see Julius Randle be more aggressive. I'm glad his jump shot is finally came, but I want to see this guy in the post, posting up smaller players, being a bully, and getting those easy baskets, because that'll help his confidence when he shoots.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think Julius Randle has converted into this kind of perimeter player, and I think last season he did it tremendous. Right, but I think teams around the NBA, especially in the Eastern Conference, are starting to play Julius Randle as a perimeter player, and it kind of just throws everything out of whack a little bit. So I totally agree with you. I would love to see Julius Randle get down there and start banging more in the post, in the low post. I think when he does isolate, he's like far away from the basket, and now he's trying to like make a dribble drive. He's not fast enough to get around anyone. He's not that kind of player. He tends to try to bully his way in there and expect a foul call or whatever the case may be, which he gets his share of fouls. No question about that. But the NBA is now starting to crack down on it, right? And I think that Julius Randle has enough talent where he can be able to go down the low post and dominate in the low post. So I totally agree with you on that.
And also, too, you're making the defense job a lot easier because the scouting report is like he likes to shoot threes. He's on the perimeter. Maybe once in a while he might get in the post or get in the paint. But realistically, you're just going to have to keep him on the perimeter. And if he does that, and he can do both, I think he would take more of the defense inside and open up even more open shooters to kick out.
Definitely agree with you. Let me just shout out some of these comments in the chat right here. Salute to my man Stafford Dawn. Always a pleasure, my man. It was nice to meet you for the first time. We had a great time at the game. We were sitting right next to Muggsy Bogues. I forgot to mention that part. We were in the suite. And myself, Devine, Stafford Dawn, we were sitting there, about to order some food. And the next thing you know, this little guy, I thought it was a child, came up to me with a plate of food. And he was like, he pointed, and I was like, I'm looking. And I turned around to Freezy. I'm like, is that who I think it is? And it turned out to be Muggsy Bogues. It was Muggsy Bogues right there, and he had the seat right there at the end of the suite.
How do you not recognize Muggsy Bogues, man? Don't you remember Space Jam? Come on.
I know who Muggsy Bogues is. I took a picture with him. I just couldn't believe it was him that we were actually sitting right next to him.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. So Stafford on, once again, shout out to you, my man. That was great to be there with you. Shout out to Reek OMY. He said RJ's not a star, he's a role player. Randle is not a superstar or a star. Listen, here's my take about this. And I know I said RJ Barrett was a role player. I mean, so far, outside of that game against the Pelicans, he has not shown me that consistency enough to where I can say that I can be able to say he's taking the next step offensively. Like, RJ Barrett, he's had wide open opportunities, but he's not even knocking those down anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I still have to see a lot more from RJ Barrett. As far as the Randle thing is concerned, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I feel like it's so premature for Knicks fans. I know we're not, playing our best basketball right now, but it's so premature to say that a player, any player for that matter, who has not won a championship can't be a number one. right? I feel like that's very, very premature because it takes a lot to win a championship. It takes a lot. It's not one player. There's one player that can lead you there, but it has to be a collective effort. Anytime you think about championships, there's always role players who step up and make shots when they need to, that make key stops, that are able to make the correct pass, to hit free throws. So it's a team thing. It's not going to be one player. So, and I'm going to address this a little bit later.
Hey, Josh, let me ask you something real quick. Do you feel that the Knicks hate, or I don't want to say hate, hate's a strong word, the Knicks' dislike for Randle or frustration with Randle is more because we just paid him and we're paying him like a number one player, and realistically right now he's not playing like a number one player? Do you feel like it's kind of like that?
You talking about the Knicks fans, not the Knicks.
Yeah,
the Knicks fans.
Knicks fans. Yeah.
Well, first of all, Knicks fans honestly don't understand what it's like to pay a number one player. We have Julius Randle on a discount right now. Julius Randle could have easily made over $30 million in the open market. Easily. No question about that. He gave us a discount to come back here. Okay, so, I don't understand why Knicks fans have this frustration with him. The guy basically carried our franchise last season. We had contributions around him, but he was the number one player on our team last season. He had to get paid. As an organization, you cannot not pay Julius Randle. You have to give him his money and bring him back. That's just a terrible look for the organization. So I think the Knicks fans frustrated. I think it's just an overreaction, a complete overreaction. I understand that he hasn't been playing his best basketball. He's not playing at an all-NBA level right now, but he's not playing terrible. He's still playing well for his position and what he's doing in his production. He's still playing well, in my opinion. I don't think he's playing that bad for people.
I think it's I think it's a culmination of the losses. I think that if we were winning more games, nobody would even say anything about Julius Randle. But the fact that we've been losing games and Julius Randle at times looks like he hasn't been playing well, he's kind of the scapegoat.
Well, I mean, as the best player, you're going to be the scapegoat, but I think Knicks fans are overreacting. There's some people out there saying trade Julius Randle. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You trade Julius Randle, you get him off this team, we're back in the lottery again. So where's the progression? You can't just go out and trade players. And think about this for a second. In the offseason, and the year before that, everyone was like, Josh, why are you so impatient? You got to be patient. The Knicks are rebuilding. They're rebuilding. Now, all of a sudden, the tables are turned, and everyone wants to trade everybody, even though the Knicks still have a winning record and we're 13 games into the season. I mean, guys, you gotta be, relax. You know what I'm saying? I think this a long season. There's still 69 games left to play in the season. Just relax, ladies and gentlemen. Calm down. Knicks will be fine. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. Salute to David L. He said RJ is better than Evan. I can't really tell at this point. D Moore 914 Obi is clearly better than Randle. IQ, attitude, can run more, lob threat, finishes better. I mean, it may look that way right now, but you're not telling me the Knicks are winning any more games with Obi Toppin in the start lineup rather than Julius Randle. You're not going to tell me that. That's just not true, and it's irresponsible to say something like that. Sonny STX, Julius is at fault for a lot of the bad play, but in defense he does have the ability to get around people, low post and dunk. Okay, true. Salute to Kerry Cox, 100%. And the Fishers, he said RJ will win more championships than anyone in his draft. Everyone and anyone that's not in that ship are not worth the discussion.
Wow.
Okay, I mean, listen, how do you know that? How do you know something like that? I mean, so far I have not seen, besides that one game against New Orleans, I have not seen that consistency enough from RJ Barrett to say that he could be a number one. I just don't see it yet. Now, in that game, he showed me something in that game. That's why I was like, okay, if he can do this, I think the Knicks are a little bit different, but these, RJ or nothing kind of fans just kind of, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I want to see more from RJ.
Yeah, he's too inconsistent for me right now.
It's way too inconsistent. Like, it just, it needs to, be a little bit. I get it. He's 21 years old, guys. I get it. I understand it, but people were comparing him to Jason Tatum, some of the numbers that he was putting up. And then there was another stat that compared him to Kobe and LeBron, the under 21 stat. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to throw that stat out there, you got to hold him accountable at some point. And that's what I've been doing, the past couple of years, holding him accountable. I like his game. I like him, but he has not done it for me. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. And one more thing, his defense has not been alpha defense. People were talking about how he guarded Jason Tatum at the end of that game against Boston, the double overtime game. Where has that defense been since? Where has that been since? We had guys like Ricky Rubio turn up on us. RJ Barrett could not stay in front of Gordon Hayward on Friday. I was there watching it. Gordon Hayward ate him up. Okay, so if we want to have that number one guy and talk about we're going to have someone to replace Reggie Bullock on defense, RJ Barrett has not shown he can do that yet. I'm sorry. I need to see more. Our wings and guards have been terrible defensively, and RJ Barrett is a part of that, in my opinion.
And to add to that, Julius Randle last year was one of the best defenders in the NBA in his win rate when he played against players one-on-one. So that's a sign of a number one player when you can do it on both sides. RJ Barrett can be a very good defender, but it's going to take time. He's only 21 years old.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Shout out to Building Roots. He says again, who would have signed him? What team this past summer had cap space would have given him more than the New York Knicks? Listen, anytime a team wants to bring in a player, they will get that cap space. They will find it some way, somehow. They will get that cap space.
Detroit would have signed him. There's a team right there.
Yes, there's a lot of. Oklahoma City could have signed him. They had a lot of cap space. They had more cap space than the New York Knicks. Right?
Dallas.
Yeah, don't think that, this is a players' league, and I feel like organizations, particularly the teams in a smaller market, they're going to overpay to have someone come to their city and come play. Michael Porter Jr. has got a $150 million contract to play in Denver. And he has not, he has a lot of potential, don't get me wrong. But because Denver is a small market team, right, they have to overpay because no player is going to go out of their way to go sign with Denver. So the small market teams will pay that money. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's talk about the defense now. Now, this is the hot topic right here because offensively, I feel like the Knicks will be fine. I feel like, the offensive struggles or whatever, I think it's due to more of the Knicks missing open shots, them passing up open shots or whatever. I think there is a little bit of rhythm from watching the game, but they're just passing up way too many open shots for me. But the defense, ladies and gentlemen, this is the thing for me that I want to highlight right here because this is going to be a problem moving forward in the season. This is going to be a really, really big problem. So obviously our defense, last season we had one of the best defenses in the NBA, if not the best defense, right? So we had, our defensive rating was third in the NBA, 108.2. This season we're 25th, 110.4. May not seem like that big of a change as far as the actual production, but the rankings, we're not the same defensive team as far as defensive rating at 25th in the NBA this season. Opponents points per game, we gave up 104.7. This season, we're giving up 109.7. That's good for 25th in the NBA. Okay, so a major drop-off, complete yin and yang as far as these defensive numbers are concerned. Excuse me. Opponents' field goal percentage. Last season, we were first in the NBA. Opponents were shooting 44% from the field last season. This season, around the same, around 43.4, which is good for 7th in the NBA. Last season, we were number one in the NBA in opponents' three-point percentage, 33.7. This season, teams are shooting 36.9. That's 26th in the NBA. So again, a complete, opposite end of the spectrum for that stat. Opponents' second chance points. Last season, we were giving up 12.2 second chance points. This season, we're giving up 12.5. And we're going to talk about, why teams are getting more second chance points on us. Opponents' points in the paint, 43.8. This season, we have a little bit of improvement, 41.1. That's good for second in the NBA. Opponents' fast break points, get down in transition. Listen, teams have been running wild on us in transition, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it's the turnovers. I don't know if it's the fact that the Knicks are spreading the ball out and they want to get more three-pointers up early in the shot clock that lead to long rebounds, which then can lead to fast breaks. But last season, we did a really good job of defending the fast break. 10.5 fast break points this season, 13.4. That's good for 22nd in the NBA. So we definitely have to improve in that aspect. Defensive rebounds, 35.5 last season. This season, we're at 35.2. That's good for 19th in the NBA. And total rebounding, total team rebounding. Last season, we were 9th in the NBA at 45.1. This season, we're at 46 total rebounds per game. That's good for 12th in the NBA. So, Nate, based on looking at these numbers right here, I want you to tell me what you think about our defense and how do you think we can improve defensively? What are some of the problems that you're seeing, and how do you think we can improve?
So first off, let's talk about the positives. I always look at defense in three categories: points per game, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage. And for the Knicks, two of them are good. Points per game it's a fast-paced league. You're not going to hold teams under 100 or near 100. It's just not going to happen. You could do your best, but these players are so good. Second of all, field goal percentage is 7th. That's not bad. So that means, our defense is allowing 43% field goal percentage. That's not bad. I mean, anything under 45, in my opinion, is good. The three-point percentage is really bad. I mean, you're talking about them giving up almost 40 points, 40% on the game. And another thing I'll throw as a positive is the points per game is second in the NBA. Now, here's my thing. You have you're second in the NBA in points per game, and you're what was the stat again on the 3-point? You were like 25 in the NBA in 3-point percentage?
Yes.
26. Okay, there
26,
you go.
Yep.
So I kind of talked about this the last show with Sim. What do you do as a defense? Do you change your philosophy? Do you go away from protecting the paint and saying, you know what, we got to get on those 3-point guys. We gotta run them off. We gotta lock them down and maybe give up more in the paint. I mean, Tibbs is a very stubborn guy. I mean, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna stick to his guns and say, you know what, we're gonna continue to protect the paint and pray that we can just get better perimeter defense on these threes?
So I think Tom Thibodeau is a stubborn guy, but again, you can't argue with someone who has been successful at what they've been doing for years, right? Tom Thibodeau is a phenomenal defensive coach, right? And I know in Minnesota, his defensive teams weren't that good, but they had stretches where they played phenomenal defense. Obviously, they had Jimmy Butler, who's a phenomenal one-on-one defender. He's a phenomenal defender overall, right? But again, my problem with the Knicks defense is the guards and wings. We do not have one guy on the perimeter, at least that's in the rotation. I'm going to let Knicks fans interpret what I'm trying to say, that can stop people from getting in the paint. And I think the whole purpose of Tom Thibodeau's defense is to, prevent people from getting in the paint. They want to force long jump shots, obviously close on those long jump shots. We haven't been doing either of those things. Our guards and wings have been giving up so much penetration. Kemba Walker, he's just a liability out there on defense. I'm sorry to say, he just is, right? RJ Barrett, even though he's a okay on-ball defender, he can defend on the ball, okay. Off the ball, RJ Barrett is not the best. He still has to improve in that aspect, okay? And Evan Fournier is just not that good of a defender either. So we're struggling, because we're allowing teams to get in the paint. I remember the game against Cleveland, Garland, Sexton, Ricky Rubio. Anytime they would penetrate, they would somehow get around their guy, right? And then they got two big guys in the paint. So even though whoever that second help defender is, whether it be Julius or Mitch, can come up and contest, all they have to do is throw the ball high off the glass, and you got somebody like Jared Allen or Evan Mobley sitting right there to get those second chance points.
So here's
and it all comes from that penetration. We don't have anybody that can stop, the penetration from happening, and I think that's the problem right there.
You're 100% right. The thing is, when I look at those numbers, you're second in the paint still, despite having bad guard play that allows a lot of paint penetration. The three-pointer, that's where I really am going to emphasize, because this is an NBA where three-pointers are key. They can win you games, they can lose you games. And the fact is that almost every team is averaging about, maybe 20, 30 three-pointers a game. Hell, even more.
30,
maybe.
sometime around 30.
30, okay. Let's say 30. So, again, I'd rather shut down the perimeter of the three-pointers than the paint. Because obviously, with even the bad guard play, we're still second in the NBA in paint.
Right.
So my thing is, we got to do something about the three-pointing. I don't know what it is. Maybe we keep less in the paint and we put them all on the perimeter and just, maybe play his own defense. I don't know. That's my thing, is that you cannot win games when you give the opponent a chance of shooting 40% in a game from threes. You just can't, especially when most of their shots are going to be three-pointers, or near most of their shots.
So I guess in theory you're correct, but that's not how you play defense at all. You must defend the paint.
Sure.
That's the emphasis, and that is the focal point of any good defense. Tom Thibodeau's been doing it for years. And I think the Knicks, like you said, they have been defending the paint pretty well. But the penetration that comes from the guards and wings getting in there, even though they might not score a ton, right? That penetration allows them to kick it out to open shooters, swing it around the three-point line, and that's how they get open looks. Now, the other part of that is effort, right? I think the Knicks do not have the same effort that they had last season as far as closing out on three-point shooters.
Or willing defenders.
Right. And you have some games where you have Grayson Allen shooting a phenomenal three-point game. You have Ricky Rubio shooting a phenomenal three-point game, right? And Miles Turner had a breakout game where he was getting open from the three-point line, right? So you put all those into perspective. I think that, the Knicks, all they have to do is just, play with a little bit more hustle, force some turnovers, and I think they'll be okay. But it is a concern having the guards and wings, get past us like that. I think that is a tremendous weakness of our defense, and we have to do something about it. I think to hide Kemba's liability, I think you might want to play a little bit more zone. I haven't seen Thibodeau go to that yet this season, but I think that could be something that we do moving forward. Or, give Kemba Walker the Alfred Payton treatment last season. You have him start the game, but don't have him finish the game at all. You take away some of his minutes, you get some of the younger guys out there. I think Emmanuel Quickly is a much better on-ball defender. I know that's not your guy. you don't like him, but Emmanuel quickly has improved on the defensive end. I think he's quicker, and he doesn't get beat as much as he was getting beat last season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think he's improved on the defensive side. Offensively, it's hit or miss sometimes. I actually have an interesting take on Emmanuel quickly when we get down to rotations and all that, or what maybe changes. So I'll talk more about that.
Okay, gotcha.
But yes, he has improved as a defender. Yes, he has.
Okay, gotcha. Let me just highlight some of these comments right here. There's a lot of them. Obviously, this is about RJ Barrett. People say I'm an RJ hater, so I'm going to call you out on that. D. Grant, he says RJ may be 21 years old, but he's a top pick, so I don't want to hear any of that crap about him being young and he got time. He getting paid, and if he does not do better before his rookie contract, I say trade. I don't want to go that far about it. Someone else did ask me, would I pay RJ Barrett after his rookie contract is up? Yes, I would definitely pay RJ Barrett. But again, I'm not going to look at RJ Barrett and say he's untradeable or he's going to be the future of the franchise. There has to be, I want to see more from RJ Barrett before I can say that he's exempt from any of those things. You know what I'm saying? So I want to see a little bit more from him. But yes, I don't want to just give up RJ Barrett for nothing. I think he is a valuable piece to this team, but he's not as good as the way some of you guys make it seem like he is. The Fisher says RJ is not getting the keys. Yeah, at least not right now. He's not. Knicks Nation, salute. Kerry Cox, he says Josh hasn't beat up RJ in a couple weeks. Okay, let's see. Fisher says feed RJ. D. Grant, there's his question right there. Would I pay RJ when his rookie contract is up? I told you I would. Casino Queens, we're going to kill the Knicks tomorrow. Let's go Pacers. No. Rick Jim said, both these dudes have the worst takes ever. Josh just like to blame RJ for everything wrong with the Knicks. That's not true. Completely not true at all. I don't know why people still feel that way. That's definitely not true. All right, let me just get a couple more. Salute to the Queen's Court. Great interview she did with Stephen Fox yesterday. That was a phenomenal interview. For those in the chat who haven't had a chance to watch it, I think it was phenomenal. Her and Stephen Fox had great chemistry. Just a great interview. And for these defensive and offensive slides that I have, shout out to Stephen Fox. He did a phenomenal job putting those together. So I definitely appreciate Stephen. Stafford Don says, your KD, Booker, Spider, all these stars, none of them remember. KD said, New York not cool. Knicks fans are hilarious. Listen, this whole notion that no one wants to come to New York, I just don't believe that. I don't feed into that. I don't feed into that at all. Because this is still New York City, right? You know, I think the opportunity as far as promotions and the ability to make money outside of basketball still exists here in New York. I don't really feed into like the players not wanting to come to New York. I think the front office is much improved, right? So you're gonna have players that want to come here and play for this organization. I just don't believe in what the Knicks were not 10 years ago, because Melo wanted to come here, right? Think about that. But 5 years ago and 15 years ago, when the Knicks were at the bottom of the NBA, I don't think that's the same thing with this team. What do you think about players wanting to come to New York, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with you a little bit because I feel that, players for the most part want to win. And the Knicks have not been a winning franchise in the last 10 to 15 years. Let's just call it what it is. We haven't really been out of the second round. We haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals. And players want to go where they can win. And so I do believe the narrative right now that the Knicks are not a very lucrative franchise for free agents right now is because we haven't been winning consistently. Now, last year, I think we got in the right direction well. This year we're hoping to do the same, maybe get farther. It's a progress, but I still think we're not a destination until we start winning consistently, and we got to win more than just getting out of the first round. We got to get to the second round. We got to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. We got to make players want to come play for us.
Well, I don't think it's just about winning. I think it's who's running the organization. I think William Wesley. I think those guys are guys that people want to come play for. No question about that. Now I understand Knicks fans are kind of hurt. They don't want to admit it, but we all wanted KD to come here. A lot of people wanted KD to come here. No question about that. And people can say what they want about KD. He's in Brooklyn now, whatever the case may be. I understand he's not one of us, but KD, listen, I wanted KD on this team. There's no question about that. And it kind of hurt Knicks fans when he said what he said. You know what I mean? But I think that was more attributed to the fact of who was running the organization. I think Steve Mills, terrible executive, absolutely terrible. And I think just that whole Jim Dolan thing that was going on at the time, I think that affects players more than us winning and losing. I think the whole purpose why we want players to come here is to help us win, right? I don't think it's just about wins and losses from that aspect. But I do see what you're saying, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I think moving forward.
Oh yeah, it's a multitude of things that a player decides when they want to go to a team. But I'm just saying that the winning is important because if you're a good player, you want to get to the next level.
Right.
And yeah, in New York, they can make it for the endorsements and all that other stuff. But we're talking about like winning chips, and they're going to go to teams where they can win a chip. Now, how Brooklyn was more lucrative than New York, other than maybe the front office, that to me still baffles me. I mean, maybe Katie just didn't really like the Knicks. I really don't know. I mean, that one to me made no sense. If you and said I want to win a chip with a more set team, that would have made more sense. But Brooklyn and New York, in my opinion, were about the same as far as talent wise, and it just
once again, Nate, it's not about the talent per se.
Right.
I mean, it is a part of it, but it's not all of it. The Nets at the time were considered an organization that was better run. Point blank, plain and simple. And the Nets organization had a reputation of being better run than the New York Knicks for some reason.
And probably coach too. You got. They had Kenny Atkinson was actually a likable coach. I think that maybe KD wanted to play for.
Well, KD got him fired. KD
Well, he tried him out, and who the hell the Knicks had? I don't know. Knicks had what? Mike Miller. Yeah.
Well, they had Fizdale. Okay.
Fizdale. Oh yeah, there you go.
Right. So there's multiple things that go into it. I just don't really feed into that so much. But
yeah.
I'm gonna get into the first question that we have, right? And I'm gonna bring it up right on the screen right here. I obviously have a take on this, but I'm gonna have you answer it first. Are Knicks fans overreacting? Are the Knicks fans overreacting? Go ahead, Nate. Let me hear what you got to say about this one.
Man, it's such a tough question. I think it's yes and no, in my opinion. Yes, they are overreacting in a sense because it's early in the season, and but it's no also too because the fact is, again, like I said, when you haven't won a lot of games in the past, PTSD kicks in. You get paranoid. Look, I'm a Lions fan, man. We won a tie, but I'm pissed off because we still lost. That's just what happens. When it's a losing franchise, you get frustrated, you get upset. You any good things, you find a negative and you want to blow it up in proportions, which is what we're doing right now. I think you gotta preach patience, but also too, the Knicks have a team now, a win now team. You got Fournier, you got Kemba, you got Derrick Rose, you've got Julius Randle. You have players that are ready to win now. So, a quandary. What do? Do you stick with a plan and keep going? Or if something comes along, Damian Lillard comes along, do you go ahead and make the pick for him or make the trade for him? That's what I'm saying. You always want to better the team. So I think it's 50-50 right now. You talk to most Knicks fans, they're pretty happy. Some Knicks fans, so it just goes back and forth. So it's really a hard answer. To be honest with you, I see both sides of the coin. I think it's early in the season and the Knicks really haven't played a huge competition. But if we start losing a lot more games, then the panics will start kicking in quicker.
Well, obviously, I'm not talking about just the wins and losses because if you look at just the wins and losses per se, the Knicks have a winning record right now. Right? If you look at it that way.
But they should have a better record than they have now.
Who?
They should have a better record than they have now. They should have won. They should be 10 or 11 wins right now.
That's obvious. But again, the question was about Knicks fans overreacting. I think it's a complete overreaction. Absolute overreaction. I understand that there are some concerns with this team, right? I always highlight them every time I come on a post-game show or pre-game show. Our wing defense is not there. Our wing and guard defense is not there. I think we're not running enough. I think our transition offense has not been as good as I would like it to be. So these are all concerns that I have. But overall, for anyone to say that we should trade Julius Randle 13 games into the season after he came off a season where he was most improved player and he was an all-star. Okay? For anyone to say that we should trade Julius Randle after 13 games, that is an overreaction. For anyone to say that, the Knicks are supposed to, right now be playing, or for you to say specifically that the Knicks are in win-now mode, that is a complete falsehood. They're not in a win-now mode. Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker does not take you to the promised land. I think everyone realized that.
Right.
Hold on. It was the fact that the Knicks actually played Boston in the first game, right? And we went into double overtime. We were on national TV, and we beat Boston at home. That showed, made Knicks fans say, "Yay! We beat a really good team. Maybe we can win 50 games this season." right? So that's what it's about. It's about Knicks fans having these awful, irresponsible expectations for this team after one or two victories early on in the season. Okay. So that's where the overreaction comes from, because if you say in one moment that we're rebuilding and then we win a couple games, oh, we're going to win 50 games and go to a conference finals, that's how you get an overreaction. And I think most Knicks fans, from what I've been reading on Twitter and from what some of these takes I'm reading in the comment section right now, like, people are just losing their minds after 13 games in the season. You know what I mean? I just think that there's a lot of veterans on this team, right? There is a lot of room for improvement on this team. You have to let the season actually work itself out. And people were criticizing me, saying I was the one that was being impatient. Now everyone wants to go trade everybody. And like, I just think, Knicks fans are just completely crazy with this whole thing. What do you think about that?
And I agree with you. I do. I think the Knicks fans are thinking in their minds like, look, this is the roster we have right now. If we look forward and seeing where we're going to be at the end of the season, is that going to be a step up forward, or is it going to be a step backwards? And when I said the Knicks have win now players, it's because they have the right pieces in play. That if we were to get a star player on this team could really make some serious noise, because you have.
But we don't have that star player yet, so why would you say win now? That's not win now.
Well, I'm just saying. Okay. But what I'm saying is that you would have that if you were able to acquire a star. You have the right pieces to go into the next level. Is what I'm trying to say. Derrick Rose, Julius Randle.
I think the difference between win now is a team that's built to win the championship right now. The Knicks are not built to win the championship right now. They're still missing that other player to play next to Julius Randle. They don't have that other guy yet. Right? Evan Fournier is not that guy. I knew that he wasn't going to be that guy. I thought he would be an improvement. Right? Well, he hasn't been, but I thought he would be at least an improvement from Reggie Bullock offensively. And Kemba Walker is definitely an improvement.
But we both agree that if we could acquire a star player, then we would be in the win now, because we do have the pieces to do it now. You know what I'm saying?
At that point. Okay. But right now, we're just not there
yet. Right.
I want to talk about this comment from Spanish Harlem Salute. He says, this team is definitely win now. The team has been put together to win a playoff series. That's win now. No, it's not, my man. No, it's not. Winning a playoff series is not win now. Winning the playoff series is a sign of improvement, a sign of growth, right? The Lakers are in win now mode. Brooklyn Nets are in win now mode. They have superstars who have expectations to get to the NBA Finals. That's a win now team. The Knicks don't have any expectations to go to the finals. That's the problem. That's where the overreaction from a 7-6 record comes from. It comes from that type of rhetoric right there, ladies and gentlemen.
And it's true, guys. And it's true, because it's a lack of patience this fan base has, because back to what I said before, this fan base has lost a lot in the past years, and it gets frustrating. And so when you get a taste of the good stuff, you're like, man, I want to keep doing it. I want to keep winning, And when they're not winning, now people are pissed off and frustrated, and they're like, oh, here we go again. We're gonna lose 20, 30 games. Just it's amazing how the philosophy, the mental capacity just shifts so much.
Right, and that's the problem I've always had with a lot of Knicks fans, like these moral victories and these moral losses, right? We had a opening day win, double overtime win against the Boston Celtics. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we had an opening win against them, and then you had people talking about we're going to win 50 games, and it's the best thing that ever happened to the Knicks. You got people going down the street, acting like it's, partying like it's 1999 or whatever the case may be. After one win, Knicks are 1-0, and everyone's going crazy, right? So I think it's these moral victories, and I think that's where that mentality comes from. Salute to Bodega Wi-Fi. It says entitlement breeds complacency. The starters need to be held accountable, and the coach need to trust his bench. I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Let me get one more comment in here. Mike Boyd, they haven't even won one playoff series.
Exactly.
Yeah. And D. Coolidge, I just want them to make it to the second round. That's all I'm asking for. Okay, but then what? Next season, you're going to expect them to go to the conference finals because they win this year? Typically, you just got to be real with the expectations before season. And as the season goes on, you have to be willing to change your expectations, right? If the Knicks somehow during the course of this season, show that they can get back to the playoffs and that they're not going to win the first round, you have to be able to adjust to that change during the season. last season, before the season, no one had the Knicks making the playoffs, right? But they showed over the course of the season what they can be able to do, right? So I just think that Knicks fans have to change up their mentality just a little bit. And we're not a championship ready team yet. We're not there.
But would you agree that would be the next step is to win to get into the second round? I mean, we lost in the first round, so now the next goal is to get into the second round and win a second round game, or lose the second round game, and then that's progression to the next season, hopefully to advance to the conference finals.
So in theory, yes, but here's the difference. Every season is different, right? Every single season is different. So if the Phoenix Suns get back to the playoffs this year, right, and they get knocked out in the second round, would you say that that's a regression for them, for that team? I wouldn't say that. I don't think that's a regression for them. I think that's still a young team. They're still building something, right? I just think that
Suns fan would think that.
Yeah, but I just don't think that's the case with them, right? Because they got to the NBA Finals last season. They're not expected to get back to the NBA Finals this season, right? It's not NBA Finals or bust for them. I think that you can still look at that team and what they have and still build around that team, that progression, right? People are often talking about the 76ers and how they always get knocked out in the second round or whatever the case may be with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. That team is still a really good team with those two players, right? So you don't just say that that team has done off there or they've always been regressing. You still pay those players and you keep building until you actually get to that point and get to that pinnacle. So,
I think the goal,
that's just the way I look at it.
I think the goal, Josh, for this team is to make the playoffs consistently. That's the next step for this team is to make the playoffs consistently. We made it last year, and let's see where the chips fall, where they fall.
And I agree with that. I would be comfortable with that, right? I would be comfortable as long as they're not, terrible in the playoffs. As long as they're competing in the playoffs, I would be comfortable with that. With the Knicks, if the Knicks decide to do that, but that's how it all plays out for them. Because I think once you get in the playoffs and you continue to compete, things are going to happen, right? You're going to have a KD with his foot on the line, hitting a two-pointer instead of a three-pointer, right? You're going to have stuff like that. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have a Klay Thompson going out.
And the funny thing is, we talk about players going to good teams. Look at the teams like the Clippers, who literally were always getting there but couldn't get past that. And what did they do? They went out and got CP3. They went out and got other players to get to that next level. That's what the Knicks are doing. The Knicks are just keep the roster they have, keep building young players, get to the playoffs, and then you know what? When we get to that point where the front office says, you know what, guys, we're right there. Let's go get that star player, and then let's see what happens.
Totally agree with that. All right, so let me get to the next question, right? And it's a simple one. Why can't the Knicks close out games? Now, listen, I think this has been a problem throughout the season, right? We've seen the Knicks get off to these big leads or what have you in the first half of games, right? They go into, and before halftime, the team starts to make a run. The other team starts to make a run a little bit, narrow the gap, and then once the third quarter starts, it feels like we just kind of fall out. But I'm going to answer this question first. I think Tibbs has to do better at adjusting. I think his plays out of timeouts need to be a little bit better. I think he has to do a better job of realizing when a team is starting to gain momentum to being able to call timeouts and stop the gameplay to knock them out of that momentum. People often have this thing, and we're going to talk about it in the next question, but this thing about the starting lineup not having any type of continuity. How can the starting lineup not have any continuity if we're able to get out to these big leads in the first half, right? So they have some sort of continuity. It's not like they don't have any, right? It's just that we can't be able to finish. And I think that's the problem. It's not the starting lineup per se. But I just think Tibbs need to do a bit of better job of getting the bench players in a little bit earlier, mixing and matching the lineups a little bit, understanding what group works to get well with each other on the floor, and then go at it that way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, first off, you were at the Charlotte game, so you can speak to this more. Giving up timely threes, I mean, that's just a backbreaker. Whenever you play good defense and you give up a three, and it shifts the momentum and the confidence of the team. Also, for me, too, it's having a guy, I know we talk about ISO, but having a guy just take over the game. We don't have that guy. People want to say Julius Randle, but I don't know if Julius Randle is the type of guy that's literally to take the ball and say, you know what, I'm gonna take this over, like a Luka Doncic or a Kawhi Leonard or Steph Curry. When the team's in a big situation, who's gonna be that guy that just in the basket? I don't know if we have that guy yet, and because that helps whenever your team's struggling to make shots, you need to lean on somebody to say, okay, I got you, you. You're gonna get on my shoulders, and we're gonna win this game. And I don't think the Knicks have that person. They have to play with all the players. But I think the three is the big one. Watching that Charlotte game, we had all the momentum, but giving up those 3-pointers, those and ones, just killed us. Completely killed us.
Yeah, I totally agree with that part. But I think the Knicks do have that guy. I believe Julius Randle is that guy. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I believe that he is. But, I just think that teams have kind of figured out, especially if the Knicks are not making shots with Fournier and with Kemba Walker for most of the games, right? And even now, RJ Barrett's not making, the shots that he's supposed to make. I think teams have figured out that if you stop Julius Randle, I'll make somebody else beat us, essentially. And I think, that's the problem mostly. I don't think it's on Julius Randle. People want Julius Randle to be our savior. I don't think Julius Randle is our savior, but I do believe anytime we need to go get a bucket, he is the only person that can really go do it. Him and Derrick Rose, right? But Derrick Rose plays with that second unit. So, that's the reason why I feel like Julius Randle is that guy. He hasn't been playing the best basketball, but at the end of the day, if you need to go to the free throw line, you're going to get the ball to Julius Randle. He's going to go to the free throw line. There's no question about that. And that's another way you can be able to stop runs. You know what I'm saying? So Julius Randle is that guy, in my opinion.
And also, too, I'll throw this in there, too. I think Barrett and Fournier have to step up in the fourth quarter. It's just that simple.
No question.
To help Julius Randle out, Evan, we were paying you a lot of money. Go get us some buckets. Whether you drive to the basket or do something, go do something. Get us some easy baskets. You don't have to just shoot the ball. Get aggressive.
I got you. Yep, I totally agree with you on that one. So with that, getting into that, into that topic about the starting lineup, I'm going to ask this question right here to you. Okay, changes coming in the starting lineup. All right, so I know a lot of Knicks fans, again, they want to make these changes because of what's been happening with the starting lineup. I think the Knicks have the worst plus minus. Their starting lineup has the worst plus minus in the NBA right now as we speak. Right. So I still think that is a little bit too early to make any changes with the starting lineup. Again, Tom Thibodeau is the one looking at these guys in their faces, in their eyes, in that locker room. Right. So if you make a change this early in the season, I think it could come across, in a negative way for the whole team. And if you lose your veterans in that locker room, you lost the entire team. So there is that fine balance with it, right? There is a little bit of a balance. You don't want to just go ahead and start benching guys, taking guys out the starting lineup so prematurely, particularly the veteran guys. I think if there was some younger guys in the starting lineup, you can do that. That's why potentially RJ Barrett, I wouldn't be opposed to that per se, because I don't think that will have the same effect on the team as if saying benching Kemba Walker this early in the season, if that makes sense. Not saying that I want to bench RJ Barrett. I'm just saying that because, people are going to take it there. Josh wants to bench RJ again. Here we go. Right. But I think that you can get away with benching someone like RJ Barrett that's 21 years old. And by bench, I mean, I still want him to play, just come off the bench with the second unit. He can still get 30 plus minutes per game with that second unit. I think he plays great with the second unit, by the way. But, bench him in that aspect, meaning just take him out the starting lineup, have him come in with the second unit. Right. You can get away with doing that because he's so young. He's 21 years old. But someone like Randle, who's a more established veteran, Evan Fournier, who's a more established veteran, Kemba Walker, benching those guys right now at this point in the season, I think could be detrimental to the team down the road. Now, later in the season, we get halfway through the season and you want to see some changes made, I think that will be more apropos. You can do something like that. But it's all about timing for me. That's my whole thing. My thing is about timing. And with 13 games gone in the season already, I just think it's too early to do something like that. Now, in order to make some of the changes without doing anything drastic, so to speak, increase IQ's minutes in that and with that playing with that first unit, right? You can give IQ a little bit more minutes. Mix and match the lineups a little bit more. Instead of coming out of halftime playing just all your starters or all your bench, you can come out with the bench, put RJ Barrett with that second unit, or put Julius with that second unit, or put OB and Randle on the floor at the same time. There's multiple ways you can be able to do it. And I think Tibbs is still trying to figure that part out, right? And that's why I'm holding him accountable as far as the starting lineup and the rotations are concerned. But again, too early in the season for me to make a drastic change in the starting lineup. But I think if they continue to play the way they play, it's going to have to happen. And I think if that is the case, and that change is going to get made, I think a player like Fournier and Kemba Walker would be receptive to that. But I just don't like it right now. I think it's too early. What do you think about that, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot already.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm going to surprise you here. I do agree with you on IQ. I think IQ has impressed me in some games, the way he's kind of been more under control, playing like a point guard, not taking stupid shots, playing good defense. I think you're right about Kemba maybe doing the Elfrid Payton thing and giving him his first quarter where he can get off and get this confidence, and then increasing the minutes on IQ along with Derrick Rose, and then in the fourth quarter, if Kemba's feeling it and he's got some juice, then put him in there. But I mean, the reality is that IQ offers more talent, more athleticism than Kemba does. And Kemba's as good as sometimes he can be in some games, and then he kind of falls off. So I'm totally fine with giving IQ more minutes. I think he deserves it, especially if he's playing good defense. Tibbs is going to love that. If he's playing good defense, he'll be out there. Also, too, I want to see Obi more, man. I mean, and Obi's in a tough situation because he's behind the best player in the team, and realistically, you got to have a shot blocker out there. With only Mitch, I mean, maybe if Noel's if he's hurt, then I'd rather see Randle at the 5, and got to get Obi in there more, man. I love Obi. He's playing so hard right now, but he's being so patient. Like, he understands the situation. He understands he's behind the best player on his team, and he's just waiting his turn. But obviously, if Noel's healthy, we're not going to see a lot of Obi because you need a shot blocker, and Tibbs has been very clear about that. He wants shot blockers on this team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let me talk about this comment right here from Ethan. Salute to you, Ethan, my man. He said, Josh, are you seriously saying that benching your third overall pick and starting for 3 years will be less detrimental to the locker room than Kemba? Yeah, I'm out. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I'll tell you why. You mentioned third overall pick. What does that have to do with anything? Is RJ Barrett playing like a third overall pick right now? No, he's not playing like a third overall pick right now. And that's not me knocking him. That's just the facts. He's not, right? But, again, he's 21 years old. It's not going to be detrimental to him to be able to come off the bench, especially if he can come off the bench and produce, right? And that's not me lobbying for it. I'm not saying go ahead and just bench RJ Barrett right now. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when I'm saying someone that's 21 years old, you can be able to do that with that player because there's still a progression for him to make, right? There's still a progression for him to make. You can argue that at the time when RJ Barrett got drafted, he shouldn't have started back then. Right? Not saying that he wasn't playing well, but again, for a 21-year-old player or a 19-year-old player, maybe it's not best to just go ahead and start him and throw him to the wolves so early, right? So it's different ways to look at it. I'm not saying that RJ Barrett's been playing terrible, but 21 years old, you can afford to bench that guy instead of a veteran, right? A veteran that's been around the NBA for a long time. That's a really hard thing for a coach to do. He has to look at those guys in the face every single day at practice. And once you lose those guys, you lose the entire team. So you cannot lose your veterans. That's what I'm saying.
And not to mention Kemba is a professional, man. He's been in this league for a while. I think if Tibbs went to him and said, you know what, we're going to go a different way. IQ's been playing well. We're maybe going to slot him in the starting lineup and put you on the bench with Rose. I don't think Kemba would be upset about it. I think at this point of his career, he knows, hey, man, I got bad knees. I'm trying to preserve my career. I'm not trying to end it now. I think he'd be okay with it, and he should be okay with it. He's been the star many, many years for other teams. So if he goes to the bench, so what? A lot of good players. Melo, perfect example. He plays on the bench for the Lakers. Why can't Kemba do that?
Right, and I totally agree with that. I just don't want to make the move right now. Again, it's all about timing with me. Right now, 13 games into the season, I just think that's too early for the Knicks to do something like that. We still have to figure out, let these guys try to get it together a little bit more. 13 games is not that much of a sample size, in my opinion. Let it play out a little bit. There's been times where this first unit has played well together. It's just been inconsistent, right? Last game, Kemba Walker was scoring all the points. Julius Randle and RJ didn't score in the first half, right? And then there's other games where Julius Randle is hot in the first half, in the first quarter or whatever, but RJ Barrett's not doing his thing. or other games where RJ
and another thing too, if
someone else is scoring, so you got to be able to put it all together.
And another thing too, if you want to limit some of RJ's minutes and put him on the bench, I'm totally cool with that. I think he would gel better with the second unit because second unit doesn't really have other than Rose, doesn't really have a player they can go to. And I think RJ Barrett would play really well with Rose on the bench. You know, not saying he has to be benched. I'm just saying if he played more on the bench on the second unit, I'm okay with that. That's totally fine.
And that's where Thibodeau has to be able to stagger the lineups instead of coming out of halftime with just your bench out there, just your starters out there. That's where you can be able to get RJ Barrett playing with that second unit a little bit more. It's not about benching him per se. You still want RJ Barrett to play, but it's about having him out there with the second unit. I think the second unit is faster, and they can help RJ Barrett just as much as he can help them, right? So, if you guys don't want to hear me say take RJ Barrett out the starting lineup, fine. Don't take him out the starting lineup.
I know what you're saying, Josh. I know what you're saying.
Stagger him with that bench. I'm telling you, that's going to be a good thing for him. Yeah, absolutely. And Duke Kulik said RJ is ain't the biggest problem. It's Kemba and Fournier. I never said he was. I never said RJ was the biggest problem with this team. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I'm not blaming RJ Barrett. People are just so stuck on RJ Barrett being this dude. Like, I'm just saying, put him out there with Rose a little bit more, right? Put him out there with Rose.
Get him some more buckets, yeah. Get him
some more opportunities. Let him play a little bit faster. That's all I'm saying, guys. Mm-hmm. So please don't, take that and run with it. Josh wants to bench RJ again. Here we go. No, I don't want to do that. All right, Nate. We're gonna come down to the last one. I know we're at our hour mark right now, but this is the last question I want to talk about. I feel like we covered a lot here today. But what I want to talk about now is, this little rallying cry that we have or had. Now all of a sudden, Knicks fans want to get rid of it. But Bing Bong. So obviously, as you know, this whole thing was brought up after the double overtime win against Boston the opening night. Fans obviously outside celebrating like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They caught someone on camera saying Bing Bong, like the subways in New York. And it became a rallying cry, right? The Garden picked it up. They use it on the PA system now. Every time we hit a three at the Garden. It was this big rallying cry. Bing Bong this, Bing Bong that. We lose a few games. Then you have the Cavalier fans trolling us with that. Now all of a sudden everyone wants to get rid of it. Give me your thoughts on this whole thing, this whole fiasco, and then I'll tell you how I feel about it.
Listen, I mean, somebody said this outside of a game, and it went viral. And the Knicks picked it up and decided to run with it. Now they're upset, or people are upset because they're using it against us. That's what happens when you build up something more than what it is. It could have just stayed as somebody making a comment, put it in on Snapchat or whatever, and it'd been funny. Haha, whatever. But the Knicks now use it on their PA systems. I mean, that's what you get. Because if you put something out there in the ether and you build upon it and they start liking it and you start running with it and it doesn't work out in your favor, it's going to be used back against you. And that's literally what's happening. I mean, I personally wouldn't have done it, but I get what the Knicks try to do. They try to run with something, say, hey, this sounds cool. Alien Cat back in the day with the Angels, with the monkey, it was kind of funny and all that. So I get it, but personally, I wouldn't have built it up more than what it was, but it is what it is.
Got you. Before I talk about the Bing Bong thing, I just want to respond to Ethan again. He said, agreed with staging his minutes if your main argument would be he needs to play with more pace, which he agrees with. But why not bench Kemba and start IQ or Rose, who's been out playing him? It's not about just the point guard. It's about Obi, too. Obi's a part of that pace. And you're not taking Julius Randle out the starting lineup to put Obi Toppin in there. You're not doing that. I think the bench play is not just about who's at the point guard position. I think it's a totality of things, right? So all I'm saying is get RJ Barrett to play with the second unit a little bit more. I think for him, that is a great thing. I've been saying this for 2 years now. Get him playing with that second unit a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. I just want him to be a little bit faster out there, like in transition. At Duke, one of his best ways of scoring was in transition. And now with RJ Barrett being able to handle the ball a little bit more, if you put him with IQ and Derrick Rose and Obi, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you can get Randle out there at the 5. Not even as the 4, you can get Randle out there as a 5, then you could probably do that. I think that would be a good thing. You know what I'm saying? But, again, we just got to be able to have RJ Barrett play with the second unit a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. All right? All right, Bing Bong, in regards to that, I think it's kind of funny how Knicks fans are kind of like, oh, we don't want it no more. We don't want it. And then, the whole beginning of the season, everybody went like Bing Bong. Everyone was standing everywhere. We go to the game, Bing Bong, right? But now that other teams and other fan bases are laughing at us at our expense, it's like, oh, we don't want it no more. We don't want it. It's corny, right? So I just think that, again, we celebrate these. We have these moral victories, and we celebrate, these one wins, one regular season victory or whatever. We go crazy, right? I think that's the problem with that. The one game we won against Atlanta, you had people outside Madison Square Garden saying, "We want Brooklyn. We want Brooklyn." No, you don't want Brooklyn. All right, we're not at that level yet. So I just think fans need to calm down. This whole controversy episode is about fans overreacting, and I think that's exactly what everyone is doing right now. Just give it time, ladies and gentlemen. Let it cook, so to speak. Everyone was telling me I need to be patient and let it cook. I think y'all need to be patient and let it cook. There's still 69 games left to go in the season. I think Bing Bong will come back around, and I think it can be used as a really good rallying cry to get us back to our best shape.
What's that old cliche? Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just kind of stay in the middle, stay even keel. That's what Knicks fans need to do. I mean, it's a long season, guys. Now, I will say, if somebody does become available that is worth listening to, I think the Knicks should definitely consider it. But if not, then just stay the course. Stay the course and hopefully build more cohesion, get the defense back where it needs to be, and hopefully we'll get more wins. But this team should always look to want to improve. Every GM that you listen to always says we always look to want to improve. Any opportunity we can get. That's the mentality Knicks fans should have. That we're going to stay the course, we're going to keep going the way we're going, and then if something happens where we see there's an opportunity to make this team better, they're gonna listen and they might do it. But if not, then hey, we'll just keep going with what we got.
Gotcha. Salute to David L. He says RJ been balling 8 to 12 games, 17 plus points. RJ not the problem. Think someone else who can't consistently. Again, no one is saying RJ Barrett is the only problem on this team. Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker have not shown up. They have not been the players that Knicks fans expected them to be here. It's more on them than it is RJ. And those are the veterans. So I blame more of them than I blame RJ for anything, right? But again, you have to be objective when you talk about this stuff. RJ Barrett has not been this player that a lot of y'all are acting like he is. He is just not that guy. He hasn't been playing like it. Can he do that? Yes, absolutely. That game against New Orleans showed me something of what he could be. I just want to see it consistently, a little bit more consistently, like him being aggressive, him finishing strong at the basket, him having the ball in his hands, telling people to get the hell out the way, right? People said that Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker having a point guard out there makes RJ's game stronger. So far, I have not seen that. And people also said that Julius Randle takes the ball out of RJ Barrett's hands. No, that's not the case because against New Orleans, RJ took it. He didn't wait for Randle to give him the ball. He took the ball. He took his points. He took that opportunity to close the game.
Why do you think that was the case, Josh? I didn't watch that game, but why do you think that was the case that he did just take over that game? Why doesn't he do that more?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's like the elephant in the room, man. We don't even know why.
I'm like, if RJ Barrett can do that like a little bit more consistently, this team can be totally different. This team can definitely take the next step because then you have somebody else who you can get the ball to at the end of games. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. And D. Coolish, no, I'm not contradicting myself. You want to bench RJ, but you don't think he's the problem. Oh, my goodness. I don't know, like how what other way for me to say it or whatever the case.
You said it plain and clear, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with people. Like again, I'm not even gonna get into it anymore. I'm nauseated now. But Nate, thank you so much for joining me, man. I know.
Yeah, man, I had a good time, man. As always, man. But hey, bring it.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this again, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm down for sure.
Yep. So thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. One more time, I just want to give a big shout out to my guys over at Blue Orange Tears, Knicks Real Talk, and the Streets of Buzzing. Definitely go check out their podcast. They're dope, ladies and gentlemen. Always fun talking with those guys. Definitely Divine, Freezy, and my man CT from the Streets of Buzzing. Definitely go check them out. Nate, do you have any last words you want to say to the people, the Knicks fans?
I mean, listen, guys, just relax. We're 13 games in. When we get to around midway point, let's evaluate where the Knicks are. and let's see where we stand. And like I said, if a move needs to be made, this front office will do it. And I'm totally fine with it. I totally put a lot of trust in them that they can make the right move to make this team better. And, if not, then we're going to roll with this team into the playoffs. And then we'll see where the chips fall where they fall.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I definitely think that they're definitely looking to make some moves at the deadline. I think the Derrick Rose acquisition was phenomenal last year. One of the best midseason trades that I think ever happened, right? And we gave up a second-round pick in Dennis Smith Jr. I think that worked great for us. So I expect Leon Rose and Scott Perry to continue to look. But Nate, once again, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We a lot of content coming for you. Obviously, the Knicks play tomorrow. Indiana at Madison Square Garden. We got a 3-game homestand coming up, ladies and gentlemen. 3-game homestand, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be fun. Let's see if we can get back on track. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Josh, aka UnclefOOlio, and I'm out, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
And BK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Knick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. Tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.